maybe cut off the first 15 seconds there. Ulysses. All right. We're on chapter 13. This chapter is kind of like got two parts. It's the Gertie McDowell part, and then so I'm gonna read like let's see. So we're in 284 in the Gabler edition. Okay then yeah, and then I'll go to page 303. Read a little bit of that because that's kind of considered the Leopold Bloom. So it goes up to 312. So it's another 30-page rocking episode. So let's read a little bit of the Gertie McDowell part, and then I'll go to the there's not much commentary. I mean, I just want to say, like, I watched a couple of videos. I was like kind of promoting the Gabler edition, but some people say I have the modern library version, and they like the one from the 60s is maybe better. So that's pretty strange. So I thought, like, I was thinking, like, oh yeah, this one's the corrected version or something, and yeah, that's like people are torn, whether this Penguin edition from the 60s or the American Modern Library one from the 60s is a better version, and this one's just sort of erroneous. But I forgot to mention, like, definitely in the Sirens episode, that Joyce was a big fan of opera, and like his music taste was more like classical opera stuff, and that's kind of an influence, I think. More, he didn't really listen to rock music or jazz. Okay, so let's read chapter 13. The summer evening had begun to fold the world in its mysterious embrace. Far away in the west, the sun was setting, and the last glow of all too fleeting day lingered lovingly on the sea and the strand, on the proud promontory of dear old Howth, guarding as ever the waters of the bay, on the weed-grown rocks along Sandymount shore, and last but not least, on the quiet church whence there streamed forth at times upon the stillness the voice of a prayer of her who is her per radiance a beacon ever so to the storm-tossed heart of man. Mary, star of the sea. The three girlfriends were seated on the rocks, enjoying the evening scene in the air, which was fresh but not too chilly. Many a time and off were they wont to come there to the favorite nook to have a cozy chat. Besides the sparkling waves and discuss matters feminine, Sissy Caffrey and Edie Boardman, with the baby in the pushcart, and Tommy and Jackie Caffrey, two little curly-head boys dressed up in sailor suits with caps to match, and the name HMS Bell's Isle, HMS Bell's Isle, printed on both. For Tommy and Jackie Caffrey were twins, scarce 4 years old, very noisy and spoiled twins sometimes. But for all those darling little fellows were with bright, merry faces and endearing ways about them, they were dabbling in the sand in their spades and buckets, building castles as children do, or playing with their big colored ball, happy as the day was long. And Edie Boardman was rocking the chubby baby to and fro in the pushcart while the young gentleman fairly chuckled with delight. He was but 11 months and 9 days old, and though still a tiny toddler, was just beginning to lisp his first babyish words. Sissy Caffrey bent over to him to tease his fat little plucks and dainty dimple in his chin. "No, baby," Sissy Caffrey said. "Say out big, big. I want a drink of water." And the baby prattled after her. "A jink, a jink, a jawbo." Sissy Caffrey cuddled the wee chap, for she was awfully fond of children, so patient with little sufferers, and Tommy Caffrey could never be got to take his castor oil unless it was Sissy Caffrey that held his nose and promised him on the salty heel of a loaf. Or yeah, so let's stop there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, forgot about. I guess this castor oil kind of stopped around when I was a kid, but we definitely got our, had to take our medicine too. Okay, so skipping around a little bit, but let's get a little bit of the Bloom. Here's all of a sudden in mid chapter, it switches to the mind of Bloom. Mr. Bloom, with careful hand, recomposed his wet shirt. Oh Lord, that limping devil begins to feel cold and clammy. After effect, not pleasant. Still, you have to get rid of it some way. They don't care. Compliment, perhaps. Go home to nicey bread and milk and say night prayers with the kiddies. Well, aren't they? See her as she is spoiled all. Must have the stage setting, the rouge, the costume, position, music, the name too. Amours of actress, Nell Gwynn, Mrs. Bracegirdle, Maud Branscombe, Curtain Up, Moonlight, Silver Effulgence, Maiden discovered with pensive bosom, little sweetheart, come and kiss me. Still I feel the strength it gives a man, the secret of it. Good job. I let him off there behind the wall coming out of Dignam's cider, that was. Otherwise, I could have. Makes you want to sing after. La cause assant tara tara. Suppose I spoke to her. What about? Bad plan, however, if you don't know how to end the conversation. Ask them a question and then they ask you another. Good idea if you're stuck. Gain time, but then you're in a cart. Wonderful. Of course, if you say good evening and then you see she's on for it, good evening. But the dark evening in the Appian way, I nearly spoke to Mrs. Clinch. Oh, thinking she was. Woo, girl in the Meath Street that night. All the dirty things I made her say. All wrong, of course. My ark, she called it. Uh, it's so hard to find one who, if you don't answer when they salute, must be horrible for them till they harden. And kiss my hand when I gave her an extra 2 shillings. Parrots, press the button, and the bird will squeak. Okay, so that's a lot. It kind of jumps in there to the there's a little description, and then it's the mind of Bloom and stuff. So we're about 8 minutes. So let's just kind of do a recap on what happens in this chapter. It's a very simple chapter, and I'll do a link. There's an actor reading the what they call the Leopold Bloom soliloquy. Okay, so this summary. Okay, so a mawkish, cliched third-person narrative describes a summer evening on sandy Mount Strand near Mary Star of the Sea Church. Bloom stands across the beach from the 3 girls, Sissy Caffrey, Edie Boardman, Gertie McDowell on their charges, Sissy's twin toddlers, and the baby brother. Sissy and Eddie tend to the babies and occasionally tease Gertie, who is some distance away. The narrative sympathetically describes Gertie as beautiful and outlines the commercial product she uses to maintain her looks. Gertie Crush, the boy who bicycles past her house, has been aloof lately. Gertie daydreams of marriage and domestic life with a silent, strong man. Meanwhile, Edie and Sissy deal loudly with the children's disputes. Gertie is mortified by her friend's unladylike obscenity, especially in front of a gentleman, Bloom. Nearby, the Star of the Sea Church, a men's temperance retreat, begins with a supplication to the Virgin. So, the toddlers kick the ball, and Bloom picks it up and throws it back, and the ball stops under Gertie's skirt. Gertie tries to kick the ball to Sissy, but misses. Gertie senses Bloom's eye on her and notices his sad face. She fantasizes that he is a foreigner in mourning who needs comfort. Gertie displays her ankles and her hair for Bloom, knowing she is arousing him. Gertie wonders aloud how late it is. Sissy approaches Bloom and asks for the time. Watches stopped. Gertie watches Bloom put his hands back in his pocket and senses the onset of her menstrual cycle. She yearns to know Bloom's story. Is he married, a widower? Sissy and others preparing to leave when the fireworks from the Myris Bazaar began. They run down to the Strand to watch, but Gertie remains. She leans back, holding her knee in her hands, revealing her legs while she watches a long Roman candle firework shoot high in the sky. All the climax of this episode and Gertie's emotions. And the Roman candle bursts in the air to the cries of "oh, oh" on the ground. As Gertie rises and begins to walk to the others, Bloom realizes she is lame in one foot. He feels shock and pity, then relief that he did not know this when she was arousing him. Bloom ponders the sexual appeal of abnormalities and women's sexual urges heightened by their menstrual cycles. Remembering Gertie's two friends, he considers the competitiveness of female friendship, like Molly's with Josie Breen. Bloom remembers that his watch has stopped at 4:30 and wonders if that's when Molly and Boylan had sex. And then he rearranges his stained shirt and ponders the strategies for seducing women. Bloom wonders if Gertie noticed him masturbating. He guessed that he did, as women are very aware. He briefly wonders if Gertie is Martha Clifford. Bloom thinks about how soon girls become mothers. Bloom smells Gertie's perfume in the air, a cheap smell, not like Molly's complex scent. Bloom smells inside his waistcoat, wondering what a men's smell would be. The scent of a lemon soap reminds him that he forgot to pick up Molly's lotion. A nobleman passes Bloom. Bloom wonders about the man and considers writing a story called The Mystery Man on the Beach. The thought reminds him of Macintosh, of course, at the funeral. Looking at the Haworth Lighthouse, Bloom considers the science of light and colors, then the day he spent with Molly there. Now Boylan is with her. Bloom feels drained. He noticed that mass seems to be over. The postman makes his 9 o'clock round with a lamp. A newsboy cries the results of the cold cup race. And then he considers going home. Let's see. Bloom picks up a stray piece of paper, wondering if Gertie would return tomorrow. He begins to write her a message in the sand. But he stops there. There's not sufficient room. He erases the letters and throws a stick, which lands straight up in the sand. He decides to have a short nap, and his thoughts become muddled by sleep. Bloom dozes off as a cuckoo clock chimes into the priest's house nearby. Okay, so in episode 13 of Ulysses, Gertie McDowell responds to Princess Nausicaa, or Nausicaa. Is there two? I don't know. I have to hear. I always said it as Nausicaa, no, but it might be Nausicaa, or maybe there's like an extra vowel sound there. Who in the Odyssey discovers Odysseus asleep on the beach and tends to him. Gertie's associated with blue and white also seems to respond to the Virgin Mary. Sound from the nearby temperance retreat are interspersed with Gertie's narrative, creating an ironic parallel. Episode 13 is the first episode of Ulysses that centers on female consciousness, and it inaugurates the final sections of the book, which are more female-centered in their characters and setting. The first half of 13 centers on Gertie's appearance and consciousness, and we only heard Bloom's interior monologue in the second half of the episode. Gertie's half consists of several barely distinct narratives, points of view, and style. The narrative is sympathetic with Gertie. The narrative styles borrows and parodies the prose of both moralizing sentimental literature and consumer-oriented women magazines. The style is accordingly full of emotional cliches, effusive diction, and imprecise descriptions. Additionally, the style of the narrative is such that unpleasant realities and indelicate details are filtered out. Thus, Gertie's lame foot is only slightly alluded to, as is masturbation. The feminine pleasantries and the focus on the sentimental love is episode in episode 13 seems to be something as a response to episode 12's masculine violence and prejudice. This hypothesis fits with the workings of Ulysses, by which previous perspectives are tempered by later styles and characters' viewpoints. Thus, Bloom's foreignness, a detriment in episode 12, becomes an attractive asset for them in episode 13. Yet, episode 12 and 13 ultimately turn out to have straightforward affinities. Excess lacking substance seems to be common to both from the hyperbolic list of episode 12 to the lush expositions of 13. And both episodes seem to offer an example of categorical or stereotypical thinking. The citizen's logic worked on the seemingly straightforward basis of race and religion. Gertie's thoughts offer conventional ideas, while the narrative of 13 invites us to evaluate Gertie as a typical Irish girl. Women in episode 13 are defined in part by their perceptiveness about who is looking at them and when. Women become sexual beings through their ability to present themselves to be looked at, and Bloom's erotic moments are voyeuristic. Stephen in Proteus experimented with closing his eyes and concentrated on his other senses. The second half of 13 reflects on a shift of emphasis from the eyes to the nose. Bloom's thoughts hover around smells and smelling. The distinction between the emphasis on senses is in the two beach episodes seem to lie in the import of Stephen's and Bloom's musings. Stephen seeks to understand how our senses order our relationship to the physical world, while Bloom's thoughts dwell on sight and smelling as ordering relationships between people. Like the other women whom Bloom has seen and fantasized about so far in Ulysses, Gertie eventually reminds him of Molly, suggesting that Bloom's desire for Molly is often refracted through another woman. In this episode, that Bloom notices for the first time, his watch has stopped, apparently sometime between 4 and 5 o'clock, perhaps the exact time of Molly's infidelities. Yet our sympathy for Bloom's sadness at this thought is tempered by the circumstances of the discovery. Bloom himself is conducting a trias at this later hour, albeit an unconsummated one. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that chapter, it's, I mean, it was one of those chapters that was published. What is this? And yeah, let's see. Okay, so what did I say? 284, 313 or something. Okay, so it ends. I'll link some of the soliloquy. So we're up to 3. So you should, if you're reading along with me, you should be up to page 314 and 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 5 more chapters, but they're longer chapters. But well, I mean, it's a hot day. It's in August here. We'll probably get it done, but before the end of the month. Next chapter is Oxen of the Sun. I think they're in the hospital. Someone's giving birth, as I remember. Let's see what else. See if there's any questions here. Oh, hey, you're back. Dr. Sexy is back. Any? I don't. Let's see. We've been going for like 15 minutes. Any yeah. Let's see. So yeah. So yeah, I'm reading this. I just read and discussed chapter 13, Ulysses. I'm getting through it eventually. Yeah, so, and kind of taking a few days off. I'm in Southern California. It's pretty hot. It's a hot day. It's maybe a little bit of sweating and stuff. And just took a shower, just had lunch, and so I'm getting back to this chapter. Yeah, so like I said before, Joyce was a big opera guy and classical music guy. He wasn't like a jazz, or he wasn't, and And yeah, so this chapter, it takes place on the beach. It's kind of like he's going out there. He's kind of, it's kind of like a romantic. The first part is kind of a romantic novel, and then the second part's like in the mind of Bloom, and so it kind of develops. So not much is, like I said before. Like a lot of people, like spectacular things happen. Not much happens in Ulysses. I mean, it's like there's a few. They wake up, they have breakfast. They go to a bar. They meet some friends. They post letters. It's like it's an average day. Not much is happening. You just kind of learn more about the characters and their reflections, and they're kind of remembering the past, and just they run into different characters. The gun club? Oh, big fan of the gun club. But probably like as you saw in my interview, I probably because I'm a big post punk guy. Um, I like the gun club and the Dream Syndicate, from the early '80s. Yeah, Jeffrey Lee Pierce. I don't know if Jeffrey Lee Pierce was Joycean. He probably was. He's probably, but I know he was into Malcolm Lowry. So, one of the books after I don't know. I just told him that, since I was like 15 in 1979, I missed a lot of the original punk thing. So, but the second wave of punk, which they later called um, post punk, kind of happened. So like a lot of the bands that you kind of consider like the second wave of punk, like Gang of Four, Public Image Limited, Magazine, Gun Club, public, and the Cramps and stuff. I saw a lot of those bands because like they were a lot of them, especially the Cramps and Gun Club and Tex and the Horseheads, played LA a lot and stuff. Culture Club. Now, Culture Club. Boy George is a great singer, but I'm not into it. I'm more of a Gun Club guy. I think because like once punk happened, people were coming in and were kind of like, like Gang of Four was doing like kind of like heavy rock with funk, kind of a mashup, and Gun Club was like this kind of old kind of blues with the punk energy and stuff. So that was kind of interesting. But I gotta stop it. I've been going 25 minutes. Let's just stop here. And thanks for listening. And look forward to my Malcolm Lowry, and we'll talk about Culture Club and Gun Club in the next one. Okay, take care, everyone.